The Florida Gators are going to College Station, Texas to play Texas A&M. Texas A&M favored by 3.5 points, noon Eastern kick. This is a really fascinating matchup to me because you have two programs that are, quite frankly, having the season that they didn't envision having when we did the whole, preseason magazine and pick your record. Like, both these programs feel a little bit disappointed in where they're at right now. Florida coming off a game where they gave Georgia a pretty good scare in the third quarter. Like, if you're a Florida fan, you're obviously not pleased with the result, but from what you saw on tape, kind of look at it, sit back and say, what if we did that for 4 quarters? How good could we be? Because for me, I think there's a lot under the hood at Florida. I just think it's a matter of Billy Napier getting his culture installed, getting his program cemented there. In year one, you have some bumps and bruises, have some highs, some lows. We've seen that throughout the year with Florida. But I'm just interested to see how they come into this game. Brenton Cox was dismissed from the program this week. Where's this team's head at in this game? We'll talk about that more in a second. For Texas A&M, it's going to be a reset, right? I mean, it's going to be a full reset from this year. They've got a lot of stacked recruiting classes. We'll see what the portal does to those classes. But as a whole, there's a lot of talent in College Station, and there's been so much external negativity going towards this program right now. How do they respond? Again, we'll talk about that in a minute. They played Ole Miss pretty tough. An Ole Miss team that I believe was ranked somewhere around number 11, if I'm not mistaken, Nick, in the CFP rankings last night. So a good program. They took the limit, is what it is. Another woulda, shoulda, coulda for Texas A&M, but the fact remains the same. A lot under the hood. Can Jimbo Fisher allow this program to achieve what they're capable of from a talent perspective? Got to develop it, got to put it in position to succeed, but I think that's the thing. Nobody in College Station feels like they're using poor man's tools. They've got a lot of great pieces. Got to have it mesh. Got to have it mesh. Connor Wegman is, to my understanding now, the guy in College Station. Did nothing to cause you to believe he wasn't from what you saw in his first start. Again, more on that in a second, but that's kind of where we sit as it pertains to these two programs and how they're going to approach this game. So what I was already mentioning as we kind of got into that in the intro, who has a better psyche when it comes to this game? Because like we said, both programs are disappointed. Florida, they just booted one of their best defensive players, right? So how does the program respond to that? Anytime someone gets dismissed from the team, I think there's 2 ways you can go. One is the program says, let me rephrase that. One is the locker room says, hey, we don't like that move. We don't support that move. It's now players versus coaches. That's one possibility. The other is a sigh of relief. Hey, that guy was bad for the program as a whole. We support our coach for having the gumption to be able to do that and say, we know you're a good football player, but you're not good for this football team. You're out of here. Players respect that when it's the right move. And I think if you respect that, you play inspired and you move forward from there. I don't know Brenton Cox. I don't know at all what that situation ultimately pertained to, but I'm just saying those are kind of the 2 paths that I see potentially playing out anytime a player gets dismissed from a program. Food for thought. Like we already said, for Texas A&M, there's been so much chatter. I mean, think about it. If you're an A&M fan, maybe you've partaken in it. Maybe you're just listening to it. But there's been so many people talking about NIL and the recruiting classes and what A&M was supposed to do, and Jimbo's not doing this. Like, there is so much negativity around this program as they played some good teams really pretty close. Like we said, only lost to Ole Miss by 3, took Alabama to the absolute wire on the last play of the game. Feels like they're really close. They beat a good Arkansas team, and that's a win that a lot of people have just seemingly forgotten about. They're capable. But how much does that external conversation impact this program? Because you can only hear so much of it until you start to partake in it yourself. Like that gets into the program. Obviously, we've seen things with the freshman class at A&M, not necessarily understanding / acting up to the standard that was set before them. I just wonder where they're at as a mindset for that program. I think it's going to be something interesting to see. Because in a game like this, where your back's against the wall and you've had some bumps and bruises and people are questioning where your psyche's at, that becomes very visible in a game like this. I think we'll see a very visible want to from either of these teams. I'm not saying the want to is going to be the difference maker, but I think it doesn't hurt. All right. Second question. Can Florida follow the Ole Miss blueprint that was laid last week? And if you're an A&M fan, you know what I'm talking about. Ole Miss ran for 390 yards last week. Just absolutely bullied them in the trenches. And Florida's sitting there saying, interesting. We didn't have our best day running the football against Georgia, but that's Georgia. And Trevor Etienne, he can carry the rock pretty well too. 6 yards a carry. We might give him a few of those this week. As a team, averaging 5.5 yards a carry. Anthony Richardson took a shot to his leg pretty early in the game against Georgia. I tweeted it out. Think it's a penalty if it's anybody but AR. Not here to talk about that. It is what it is. I wonder how mobile he'll be in this game, because if you get AR to run the football, you get Trevor Etienne to run the football. I mean, pick your poison at that point. 390 yards. I don't think it would take that much to win this game, but I promise you they would take it if there's even 250 available. So that run game, if A&M can't stop that, gonna be a long day. I mean, just think about it, because then you put pressure back, as we always talk about it, game of pressure, you put pressure back on a young quarterback making his second start with a program that's had a lot of chatter around them. Like, that then kind of becomes a little bit of some thin ice to walk on if you're A&M. So running the football for Florida, that would be a nice way to go about it if you're in College Station. Second question, or I guess third question rather, when it pertains to this game. Did A&M find something in Connor Wegman? Like, just think about this scenario. 388 yards, 4 touchdowns last week. What if that's just the tip of the iceberg for this kid? Like, what if he has even more in the tank and he was just getting his feet wet? Because, I mean, it was his first career start. And dude looked cool, calm, and collected. Did he play a perfect game? Of course not. It was his first time doing it. But what if he has more? How much would that impact this game? Because A&M, on the year, they're really bad on third down. Well, the good news is Florida's the worst in the country defensively on third down. They're giving up conversions, I believe it is 54% of the time. That's very bad. So maybe if you're A&M, you're saying, well, for our quarterback making his second start, all the weapons we have offensively, as close as we feel like we have been from an execution standpoint, maybe this is the defense we needed to see. And maybe, just maybe, you're able to get a little bit more from the offense in this game. And maybe you're able to answer scores a little bit more effectively. That's the kind of game that A&M needs to have. Connor Wegman needs to continue to build on what he did, and they need to be able to sort of level off what happened last week, use it as a base, build upon it. That's crucial. Because if you kind of revert back to what we've seen from A&M, and we've seen at times it's not overly important who's playing quarterback, whether it's Haynes King, whether it's Max Johnson, whether it's Connor Wegman. We've seen there's been issues within the approach offensively. If you revert back to that, going to be a long day. If you can look closer to what you looked like against Ole Miss, you got a real good shot. Got a real good shot. So here's my prediction. I don't see A&M getting to drive this game. Just what we talked about with the run game. I don't see A&M getting to control the tempo of this game. I think those ground numbers are frightening. I think Florida has the recipe in the backfield to be able to dictate what they want on first and second down, which then, as you know, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, you love living in that as an offense. And the thing I worry about for A&M is if they do commit extra to that run game, well, AR, he's got an arm, right? I mean, the passing numbers don't wow you, but we've seen they can hit some splash plays here and there. Shorter, a guy that can take the top off the defense. Ricky Pearsall, tons of talent. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him pop in a game like this. So I think Florida goes into College Station in a close game, a closely contested game. I think Florida ends up winning this game 28-24. And think about the chatter that then starts again around College Station. At that point, there's a lot of conversation about what changes need to happen. Jimbo Fisher is not getting fired. I'll just say that. But I do think you start to feel a little bit more uncomfortable about the pieces around him. You worry about the portal. I think it's one big game of Jenga, and every single week you lose, you start pulling out those little blocks. You get a little bit more uneasy. Is it going to fall? Is it going to crumble? Is it going to tip over? What's going to happen to these recruiting classes? What's going to happen with this program? Food for thought. Something to keep an eye on. And then for Florida, this would be one that would boom morale. I think Billy Napier would receive a lot of praise that is due to him if they do win this game and can play inspired football based on all of the internal things that have seemingly happened with Brenton Cox being dismissed. So I think this is very much a must-win for both programs. Excited to watch it go down. I'm JD Piquel. This has been The Hard Count. We appreciate you tuning in. Nick Brake does everything you see here, does the real heavy lifting, but you can help drive this whole operation by subscribing to the channel. It gives us a good gauge for what you want to see, so we incorporate more of that from our subscribers. All right? We're live on Tuesday. We're live on Thursday. Would love to have you at that party and get the live chat going. We have a real good time. So until then, we're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.